Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down a story that has absolutely rocked the foundations of power and privilege in America, the dark, tangled world of Jeffrey Epstein. And let me tell you, this isn't just about one man's horrific crimes. It's about a whole network of corruption that goes all the way to the top.
So the big question is, right? How on earth does a guy who started out as a math teacher end up building a secret criminal empire on his own private island? Well, to figure that out, we have to start with the island itself, a place that looked like paradise but was hiding something truly dark.
So let's go back to 1998. We're on this secluded 75-acre island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. To anyone looking in, it was paradise on Earth. You've got these perfect beaches, beautiful landscapes, stunning villas. But that beautiful exterior was just a cover for something horrifying.
For just $8 million, Epstein bought himself a private kingdom. He kitted it out with luxury bungalows, swimming pools, even a helipad. The whole place was designed from the ground up to be a completely private playground for some of the world's most powerful people. You know, a place where they could get away from it all.
And the owner? Jeffrey Epstein, a guy who had this really mysterious backstory, going from a high school math teacher to a multimillionaire financial advisor. And his guest list? Wow, it was a who's who of the global elite. We're talking royalty, presidents, huge celebrities. But the locals, they had their own name for the island, a name that hinted at the ugly truth of what was really going on there.
For years, all the abuse and trafficking happening on that island was a well-kept secret, a real-life horror story that nobody knew about. But then, in 2005, the first domino fell, and the entire criminal operation started to come crashing down, all because one person was brave enough to speak out.
It all started with one 14-year-old girl. She and her parents filed a police report down in Florida. That single report, though, led police down a complete rabbit hole, and they quickly figured out this was no isolated incident. By the time the FBI got involved and launched their own investigation, the number of victims was just exploding. And here's what the police uncovered. This wasn't just a series of random attacks. No, this was a highly organized criminal operation. Epstein had created this truly horrifying pyramid scheme, where he would pay young victims a finder's fee to go out and recruit their own friends and classmates, just pulling more and more girls into this awful web.
So you've got the FBI on the case, a 53-page report detailing everything, and dozens of victims ready to testify. You'd think a life sentence was a slam dunk, right? Well, while the case was being built in public, something very, very different was being cooked up behind the scenes.
The case against Epstein was absolutely ironclad. Federal prosecutors had pinpointed dozens of victims who were minors. They had witnesses lined up. They had this massive FBI report, and they were all set to hit him with international sex trafficking charges. By any measure, he was looking at life in prison.
But what happened next is, for a lot of people, the real crime in this story. A secret plea deal worked out by the federal attorney in Miami, Alexander Acosta, took a potential life sentence and knocked it all the way down to just 18 months in a county jail. And he even got work release.
And this is a really crucial point. The deal wasn't just ridiculously lenient, it was illegal. Federal law is crystal clear that victims have to be told about any plea agreements. But this deal, it was sealed and hidden from the very girls it was supposed to get justice for. It basically silenced them and completely denied them their rights.
So Epstein gets out of jail early in 2009 and just goes right back to his life of luxury. You'd think the story might have ended there, with the bad guy getting away with it. But one investigative journalist was absolutely determined not to let this injustice just fade away.
That journalist, Julie K. Brown, published this bombshell series for the Miami Herald called Perversion of Justice, and it just blew the case wide open all over again. The public outcry was just deafening, and it forced prosecutors in New York to finally act. Epstein was arrested again in 2019, but just a month later, the story took its most unbelievable turn yet. His death was officially ruled a suicide, but, almost no one believed it. Considering the powerful people he was connected to, his death immediately lit a fire of speculation and conspiracy theories. It quickly turned into this huge online slogan, basically suggesting he was silenced to protect other people. Epstein's death just poured gasoline on what was already a political fire. All these swirling conspiracies about his powerful friends, well, they soon got tangled up with the political ambitions of one man in particular, his old friend, Donald Trump. So during his presidential campaign, Trump promised over and over again to declassify all of the Epstein files. But after he won the election,
he did a complete 180. First, his administration claimed that no client list even existed. Then Trump himself started calling the whole scandal boring and a hoax.
But public pressure kept mounting, and they were forced to release some of the files. And they contained some absolutely shocking claims. This one here is an allegation from an email written by Epstein himself, and it suggests that Trump didn't just know about the abuse, but had actually told Epstein's right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, about it.
Now, even though the few documents we saw were heavily blacked out, they still contained some explosive stuff. Trump's name came up again and again. Flight logs supposedly put him on Epstein's private plane multiple times, and a witness even called the FBI to allege Trump was directly involved in a sexual assault with Epstein.
And all of that brings us to where this story is today. We've gotten a few documents here and there, but the full truth is still buried. We're left with a mystery that has way more questions than answers, and this nagging feeling that the biggest secrets are still being protected.
And I mean, the amount of information that's still hidden is just staggering. We're talking about over 1 million pages of evidence, testimony, and records that are still sealed away from public view. What we've seen so far, it's really just the tip of the iceberg.
And even the documents that have been made public are often impossible to read. They're just covered in thick black marker, hiding names, dates, and critical details. It feels like a very deliberate effort to hide the true scale of this criminal network and to protect the people who are part of it.
And so that leaves us with the ultimate question, right? It's a question that could implicate some of the most powerful people on the entire planet. With over 1 million documents still locked away, we just have to ask, what, and maybe more importantly, who, is the world still being protected from knowing?